Hey guys, sorry, I know I haven't uploaded a video in quite a while. It's been pretty hectic at work. I'm working on 3 videos as we speak, so they should go live sometime soon. But in the meantime, we're going to be testing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 with the 9070 XT and the 5070 Ti. So currently we do have the 9070 XT installed here. This is going to be my third attempt of recording this video. I run into some settings bugs. Sometimes settings do not apply. Anyway, I'll make 100% sure that they do apply this time. All right, so the 9070 XT and then also the latest AMD driver. And we are pairing it with a 7800 X3D processor, my same test bench that I usually use. And that again is paired with 6,000 megatransfers per second CL30 DDR5 32 gigabytes RAM, right? So everything's running stock here. You can see no manual tuning or anything applied, and currently we are at 1440p. Now what happens here is that I'm using the custom preset because the maximum preset does not set shadow quality to highest, right? But if I make this change, it does not always apply. But now I know, right? If shadow quality is set to high, we're getting around 200 frames per second, right? In game. But when it's set to highest, we get a little bit less. All right, so now I kind of know what to look out for to see if this bug occurs again. Anyway, so everything is set to the highest. There's not a lot of settings here you can actually change. We have TIA, FSR, and DLSS. And we got a bunch of presets, which that's basically it. I don't think there's anything else. I'm using an external capture card for all my recordings here, and we'll be testing at 1440p and 4K. Just 2 stages basically. I'm doing a free run, and I do have some game options enabled to prevent me from falling, because otherwise we'll never complete this benchmark run. I used to be a pro in this game, in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, but that was like 20 years ago, maybe even more. I believe I was still in high school, and a friend and I, we played it for hours and hours and hours on end. Anyway, so yeah, we are at getting around 160 frames per second here. Everything's set to high. That's actually a pretty decent experience. No need for any upscaling whatsoever here. Get a high refresh rate experience. Very, very good. And you can see we are fully GPU bound. We are sitting at 100% GPU usage, and power draw for the 9070 XT, the model that I have, is 330 watt, and we're hitting 330 watt. So, I mean, the game looks pretty good. I don't think it supports FSR 4, but you can enable FSR 4 with OptiScaler up. Because OptiScaler actually received a pretty big update recently where it enabled support for quite a few games, or a few additional games. Anyway, I think it's wasting too much time here getting a decent experience. So going to not even change the video settings, but what we will do is just enable FSR here. So FSR is set to quality. Unfortunately, there is no FSR AA, so you cannot use FSR's anti-aliasing at native resolution. You can only use TIA when you have an AMD GPU if you want to play at native resolution, and then Nvidia does support DLAA. Alright, so everything's still set to its highest. It's 1440p FSR set to quality, and I had to restart the game. It's so stupid. Anyway, when you change the presets of the game, you have to restart the game. So I didn't change the presets. I just cycled through them, and then I cancelled, but then it wanted me to restart anyway. So anyway, here we are at with FSR set to quality on the highest preset, everything maxed out, and we're getting between 200 and 300 frames per second. The game runs very well. I did see Iron Galaxy was involved here, so which is kind of surprising. I'm not the biggest fan of their ports, but or their PC ports anyway. So yeah, we are getting, 250 frames per second average. I'm not even going to try. I think look at that balance. Pretty decent experience. So what I'm going to be doing is just enable 4K here, and we'll disable FSR. So 4K native, everything set to max. Alright, so TIA, everything's set to its highest here, and 4K resolution, and I mean, it's going to be perfectly fine, I believe. Right, so let's just restart our run here and reset our numbers. And 70-ish frames per second. I could not get it to drop below 60 frames per second. Right, even in the outdoor map. Just trying to get my rhythm here again. But even in the outdoor map, which we'll test just now as well, we won't do a full test. I just want to show you what the differences are in performance. And getting, I mean, 60 plus frames per second all the time. You're at native 4K resolution on the highest preset. I think that's actually pretty decent, right? All right, so let's go ahead and enable FSR here quickly. I'm not going to be wasting too much time here. Just going to enable FSR. Then we're going to move to the other stage, do 1 minute of testing, and then we get to the 5070 Ti. So still FSR quality just, and everything set to its highest. So let's go back. Just want to see if we still get a high refresh rate experience here. And I mean, it's basically doubling your frame rate by enabling upscaling here. So we went from 60 to 70, between 60 and 70, to now between 130 and 140, right? So, and I also don't think you'll notice the difference between 4K TAA and 4K FSR quality, like especially if you are trying to focus on doing some tricks, which I'm obviously failing at miserably. All right, so 134 frames per second average there, pretty decent, I'd say. Anyway, the game runs very well. So if we then go, where are we now? I actually just want to select Canada, which is an outdoor area, and it is a little bit more demanding. So we'll just test here, and you can see now we are getting around 20 frames per second lower at times. The snow looks kind of weird. Okay, but it's blowing. All right. It's still above 120 frames per second most of the time, right? So I think it's still a decent experience here. And it's not a decent skating experience that you're forced to watch here. For that, I do apologize. As I said, I used to play this game a lot. Number 2 20 years ago. And it shows. I think that was the last time I played it anyway. So 127. So on average the frame rate is really not that much lower than what we saw inside in the Foundry. Let me show you a trick here. See? All right, on that note, I think we're going to this guy's got good balance. 130 frames per second. Yeah, it's time for the 5070 Ti. All right, so here we have the RX 5070 Ti. Everything's stock, you can see there, and 576.88 latest Nvidia driver. And this model that I do have, it's a Palit GameRock. Yes, 5070 Ti, and it's kind of hard capped at around 995 millivolts. So the power draw on this GPU is slightly lower than other models, and it's also boosting to around 2737 when below 60 degrees Celsius. Right, it can overclock quite a bit. We can hit 3 gigahertz, no problem on this GPU. But for my testing, I just test stock, right? So let's reset everything. All right, and in game we are getting, we're at 1440p, and TAA, we do have DLAA and DLSS available to us. And again, I ran into the bug where the frame rate on the 9070 XT was a lot lower than the 5070 Ti. I don't know what's happening, right? But then when I changed the resolution to 4K and then back to 1440p, then all of a sudden it performs pretty much on par. Now, I just want to make sure. So the shadow quality bug, what I was talking about earlier, is that if you apply it down to high, we're getting 280 frames per second. That's actually a big jump. And then if you apply it again, now in the menu, we're getting 208 frames per second. So there's definitely a bug somewhere with this shadow quality setting. Sometimes it looks like it reverts back to maximum, right? Because that sets the shadow quality to high, even though you are on custom. Okay, so now we know. Alright, so if we restart our numbers and restart the map here, you can see that the 5070 Ti is a little bit faster here than the 9070 XT. We're getting around 220 frames per second, give or take. It drops below 200 every now and again, but it's still quite a bit ahead of the 9070 XT. And I'm really not entirely sure whether there's a bug or not, because previously when I tested I was getting 160 frames per second. Now all of a sudden I'm getting 220 frames per second. I've got no idea what's going on here. So if your numbers differ from mine, just know that there does seem to be some issues with the settings that don't get applied properly. Like on the 9070 XT it is pretty stable or pretty consistent, right? But on the 5070 Ti, for some reason, sometimes I'm getting a high frame rate than other times, and it's really boggling my mind, because on both runs the metrics of the GPU are the same, right? Now if we go ahead and enable DLSS, now remember I said you can enable DLAA. There's really no performance difference between DLSS and or DLAA and TAA native in this game, but you can see you can use DLAA. Anyway, so quality, let's just make sure that all the settings are still the same here. Let's go ahead and apply that. And previously we were seeing around 300 frames per, well, up to 300 frames per second on the 9070 XT. And over here we are seeing it a little bit more consistently, I believe. I think the game's frame rate is locked to 300. Okay, even though I do not have a frame rate cap, I think it is locked to 300, because once we hit 300, we can see the GPU usage drop quite a bit. So, which means there is room for it to go past it, and like could be a CPU bottleneck, but I really do think that we are hitting an engine cap limit at 300 frames per second. So if we then just go ahead and enable 4K, so I want to make 100% sure all the settings are still the same. It's so annoying when menu settings are bugged. Okay, so let's go to 4K and we'll disable DLSS as well. Alright, so at 4K, just still with TAA, just to keep everything the same, right? And want to make sure everything is still the same settings wise. So 4K, it's going to restart the run here, and it's definitely a little bit faster on the 5070 Ti. We were seeing just over 60-70 frames per second previously, so this is actually it's quite interesting. I don't know if the game uses Hairworks, right? There's no option for it in the menu, but it very well might be something like that, because basically what I saw in Stellar Blade as well, that game uses Hairworks, and the 5070 Ti was quite a bit faster than the 9070 XT. But I'm not going to be wasting too much time here. Weird thing though is that the power usage is basically, it's actually a little bit lower than it was at 1440p, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to play here while having an eye on the numbers as well, so I might miss one or two things, but I do think we're seeing 250, 270 watts here. It's basically the same. I was just expecting it to be a little bit more, but we should be voltage limited here at 995 millivolt with this GPU. Alright, so 91 frames per second average here. I'm going to just enable DLSS quality quickly. I want to see what kind of frame rates we can squeeze out of here. Once again, I just want to make sure everything is still set. Okay. I don't know, something about this menu is very strange, because like, now we're getting 160 frames per second. Previously, in my previous testing, I was getting 120. I'm really confused as to what's happening here. Let me just check one thing quickly. I'm going to just want to make sure that this bug is not there. So I'm going to drop the shadow quality and just set it to high. And now it's getting 210. Okay, so highest back to 170. I don't know. There's nothing else we can change here. I don't know. It is what it is, right? If it is a bug, then it's a bug. If it's nothing I can do about it, it's really annoying. Anyway, so yeah, because as I said previously, when I tested, I was getting 120, pretty close to what the 5070 or the 9070 XT was getting. That's what I was getting on the 5070 Ti as well, and that's why I said it's very strange to me that the 9070 XT is about the same at 4K, but the 5070 Ti is faster at 1440p. That doesn't seem to be the case now. We are definitely seeing a high frame rate at 4K. Anyway, so if you do see this kind of weird behavior, it's possibly a bug. Right, let's just go ahead and test the other stage. Going to go to Canada again. Now the settings would reapply again, so I want to see if the frame rate is that much lower. I mean, it was lower here previously as well, and now we'll see some shader compilation stutters because I haven't played this map with the 5070 Ti. Anyway, so the frame rate is definitely higher with the 5070 Ti, which, as I said in my previous testing, I was seeing around 120-ish frames per second here as well. So it's it is really annoying when setting bugs like this exist, and I don't think it's a resolution scaling issue. I think it's that shadow quality setting that does not apply correctly. But I think now that the shaders have compiled, I hope they compiled, we can maybe just reset the numbers, get more accurate lows here. Just look at this balance. I won't fall off. I'm trying my best here. So going around the whole stage is getting us 170-ish frames per second. Pretty high frame rate even at 4K. Alright, so now I restarted the game. Sorry, let me just get my mic back. I restarted the game and it's still exactly the same. We're getting a much higher frame rate than what I was seeing earlier in my previous testing. So maybe it's not a bug. Maybe the previous run was buggy. I don't know. So I just wanted to clarify that. I just wanted to test that. Alright, so okay, that's definitely a bug. Alright, I'm stuck. Okay, so anyway, I think that's where we're going to leave it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one.